read a quote not too long ago, a fact, that if you took all of the hours spent in the public school system and added them up, it would equal about 5 years and so many days. And when you think about how homeschooling is a learn all the time, doing life all the time, we have gone far beyond that 5 years. And you will see that. I would encourage those of you who have young ones now to remember it all doesn't have to be done today. It is a long journey, and it's amazing how much learning takes place just by living life, And so don't get caught in that trap of feeling that pressure of, I have got to do this every day, and we've got to be on it, and I know you feel that pressure, especially when people, you say you homeschool, and what do people automatically do? What's 2 plus 2? And that doesn't help either, and then your kids are like, I don't know. That kind of pressure is so not helpful, but find your identity in who you are, who God created you to be. Help your children find their identity in who God created them to be, and then it doesn't matter what anyone else says, right? It really doesn't matter what anyone else says. I feel like there are probably so many more people in here who could share with you high school better than I could. I feel like I'm fairly new at it. I did actually graduate a child, and I felt like we needed to have a party because I did a good job. You just feel like, oh, I did this, and you don't want it to be all about you at all. But it is just a wonderful feeling to know. My husband and I, literally the night of my daughter's graduation, we did a big shindig at our house, and we had her walk in a cap and gown and everything, and it was just wonderful. And the night, then it was all done, and he and I got in bed, and he's like, we didn't kill her. Because when we first had her, we were coming home from the hospital, and I wanted a milkshake, so we went to Dairy Queen and got a milkshake. Well, my husband decided that he was going to fly into the parking lot and hit that big bump in Jerome's Dairy Queen, And we hit that bump so hard, and then I go to get my daughter out. She's like hours old, just a day old. And we didn't have our car seat buckles, right, because we were new at this. And she was all slumped over in a ball. And I'm like, we killed her, Robert. I literally could not even touch her. I'm like, make sure she's okay. I really thought we'd already killed our kid. She was okay. We just learned. I told my friend later, she's like, Christy, you need to tighten those straps up. Get them up where they go. So I had car seat education, and we survived. We had a kid who went all the way through high school and is doing well. Actually, I have to share, she made President's List her first semester at college. She's doing well. She's had some adjustments to make, as all kids do, whether you're public school or high school or homeschool, but she's doing well. How many of you are in high school, have kids in high school right now? So not very many, actually, but we're all scared to death, right? When I looked at homeschooling Evie through high school, I knew all along we would be doing this, but when it actually came to it, I felt like I was starting all over again. I felt so unsure of myself. I felt like her entire destiny was in my hands and that I was probably going to mess it up. But I found different resources, different places to go. I was Googling how to do GPA. That's where I was. How do you figure a GPA? I don't know. I Googled it. So we do have resources that our parents didn't have. It's an amazing thing. We have so many resources out there. Do not let people intimidate you. Do not let educators intimidate you. When I was a young mom, I found that other moms intimidated me. As an older mom, I feel like educators intimidate me as a high school mom. And don't let them intimidate you. A high school diploma, a homeschool diploma is recognized in all 50 states. It does not have to be accredited. Colleges are excited and many times looking for homeschool graduates because most homeschool graduates have an initiative, a motivation, they are self-learners, and they have a whole well-rounded knowledge of life, not just of school with peers. So don't be intimidated to step into this new role. It really is a switch of roles as you go into the high school world. And you do need to look at things a little bit differently, a little more seriously. I think of 7th and 8th grade as prep time for high school. Getting ready, trying to get them more independent, trying to help them learn time management, and also to go ahead, in my mind, and start preparing for their 4-year plan, what their high school is going to look like. If you are not in the high school years yet, I would encourage you there are things you can do now to prepare. If you have elementary and younger, you need to begin forming a family bond that says, we are in this together, we are in this for the long haul, and that bond needs to be tight. Because when 7th and 8th grade hits, something hits our children. And they're like, I need to do that. Everybody else is doing that. I need to do that. And in the last 4 or 5 years, my heart has literally broken as I've seen some really good homeschool families give up that desire and go into the public school system, and their kids have not done well. And it's not because of academics. It's because if they went into that, they went because of peer pressure. So what is going to be their biggest battle in that environment? Peer pressure. If you are going to succumb to peer pressure, to give up your dream, your ideals for your family, then you are going to see your kids fight that peer pressure battle the entire time you're in high school. It's something you need to think about now, while your kids are still young. What are we going to do? You're the parent. You get to decide. The kids don't need to decide. They're not ready for that kind of decision. And you need to make sure you're not succumbing to the peer pressure. And you need to give your kids that confidence. We can do this. We're a family. I mean, I almost feel bad sometimes because when the Lipskochs walk in, it's like, the Lipskochs are here. You know, we are a tight bond. We are a group. We do everything together. I've had so many people tell me, I just don't think of you without everybody else. You're all always together. That's the kind of tight bond we have, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's really the way it was supposed to be, right? It really is. And yes, in our tight family bond, we want to open it up to others, and we want to inspire others, and we want to encourage others, we want to love on others, but we want to do it together as a family, and that's the way it was designed to be. And so I would encourage you, if you're in the elementary years, work on making that tight family bond that says we're in this together, and together we can do anything. We don't need everything else. We don't. Encourage your kids while they're young to be different. It's okay to be different. It's easy to be the same. It's easy to do what everybody else is doing. That's the easy thing. It's difficult, but it's worthwhile to be different. I always tell my kids, it is difficult, it is supernatural to do the right thing all alone. You need to teach your kids now to be willing to stand up and be different. Because the truth is, society is not what we want our kids to become, right? Obviously, we're here in a group because we don't like what we see out there. We want our kids to be different. Teach them to be different. Teach them to be bold in their differences and not to be ashamed of it. They need to be confident, and they will have that confidence if you have that confidence. Stand up for your kids. Stand up for for homeschooling. Don't be shy about it. Don't be ashamed of it. Be proud of it. I mean, we don't have to be arrogant, and we don't have to be pushy, but we don't have to cower in a corner either. And the way you respond to how you feel about homeschooling to other friends is how your kids are gonna feel when they have to answer to their friends, right? So don't be afraid to be bold about what you do and to be confident in what you're doing. If you're homeschooling high school, a good place to start is to know what is required. Idaho is probably one of the easiest state to homeschool in. The actual law, right here, you must teach your children subjects that are commonly and usually taught in the public schools of Idaho. We recommend that parents provide instruction in language arts, math, science, and social study in grades 1 through 10 with additional flexibility in grades 11 and 12. The end. That's all. That is literally all that is required, and I love that. People look at me and they say, yeah, but what about those homeschoolers who aren't doing anything? I'm like, that's the parents' fault. And that is their responsibility, and they're gonna have to live with the consequences of that. I will say, just because not much is required of us, I think it's our duty to equip our kids for the future and to do it very well. I think we should hold our standard higher because we're capable. We know that kids are smart and kids are capable and kids are wired with curiosity, and we should feed that and work into that always so that we have a higher standard for our kids than even the public school system. But that's what Idaho expects. I went and looked up the state of Idaho and what they require for a high school graduate. And they have a minimum of 46 credits. And if you, a lot of you are moving here from different areas. I'm sorry. I lost my voice about a month ago, and I have this perpetual tickle in my throat. Anyway, if you are from another area and you've done some high schooling, homeschooling, keeping credits, you'll notice our credits sound really high. It's because we're like one of 3 states that does it different, and our credits are doubled. So instead of a 1 credit class, it's a 2 credit class. Instead of a half credit class, it's a full credit class. That's the only difference, and that's why it sounds so high. But you want to have a minimum, they require a minimum of 46 credits, with 29 of those being in your core subjects, your math, your language arts, and your science. They require 3 maths, 1 to be completed in your senior year, 3 science, a senior project, which I don't know what that is, and I never really investigated, a government civics class, and then they require them to take the ACT or SAT by the end of the junior year. That's Idaho's requirements for a high school diploma from your public school. Once you begin high school at home, something that's good to know and a little scary too, is that districts are not required to accept your homeschool credits at all, and they probably won't. So once you start into homeschooling high school, you're kind of there for the duration, or they will be put back into school, and some districts may allow you to test them and put them into different places, but really most of them are not very cooperative with that idea. And I have heard of several going in and starting all the way back at 9th grade, no matter what they have done before. But they do it just depends on your district, but it is up to each district. They are not required to accept anything unless it's accredited by their institution, Advanced Ed. So just keep that in mind. It's a little intimidating, but it is good information to know. A homeschool diploma is accepted in all 50 states. I mentioned that already. So how you do this? What curriculum do you use? There is a lot of talk about accreditation. That is a big fancy term to say that a certain institution says that you're good enough. And really that's all it is. Every institution, every accreditation institution has different requirements. They're all over the board as to what they require and what they're looking for. And so accreditation is not as huge a deal as what they will make you think it is. No homeschool diploma has to be accredited to be accepted at colleges. There are some scholarships that say they require accredited diploma in order to receive them. You will just have to look those up individually if you're looking at scholarships and grants. But when you look at your outlook for your 4-year plan homeschooling high school, you can choose whatever you like. You are still the parent, you are still the teacher, and you still have all the freedoms that you had in elementary school. That part has not changed. I have taken a Charlotte Mason approach, especially in my elementary. I have a hard time finding that balance in high school, just because of my personality, but I do still carry a lot of that through. But I don't use an accredited curriculum. We use Heart of Dakota for our basic spine, and it's a very, very thorough curriculum that gives my kids a lot of different sources to study from, a lot of good literature to read. It teaches things like, what do you call it? The literature analysis. That's not what you call it there. Anyway, as you go into high school, doing all the analyzing, research, essays, all of that is included and it's kind of a one-stop shop curriculum for me. And I enjoy using that, and we pick and choose from that. I have not ever fully completed any curriculum. I mean, there are things that I pick and choose from. There are things that I say, you know, I like this better than this, so we're gonna read this book instead of using that book. I totally do my own thing. And I think the most important thing is knowing what your child wants to do in their future and making sure they are equipped for that, right? Really, that's all it comes down to. Is my child going to be able to be productive, and have I helped them prepare for success in the career that they would like to have? If you have done that, then you have done fine. You want to start by creating a 4-year plan. If your child has no plans for college, I am not a college pusher. I have a child in college, but I don't think that's the only way to go. I have one son who has struggled in bookwork, but is an amazing mechanic. And he has no desire, he probably will not go to college, but he can already take apart engines and motors and rebuild them at 15. He's put his interest there, so he has all kinds of shop credits for high school. And then we're just completing the basics with him for core work. He's doing his 3 maths, he's doing his 3 sciences. I'm an avid history, so he's getting his history in. And then we're just finding different welding classes from his father, shop classes from his father, different things like that that we're pulling in that will prepare him to do things in the mechanic field. So they don't necessarily have to go to college. However, whether they plan to go to college or not, I would encourage you to keep a transcript, because you never know when that might change. And even if they're not planning to go to college, I would encourage you to complete the minimum requirements. Just because I always tell my kids it's character. You know, you need to have character. You need to learn how to do the things that aren't fun, that you don't want to do, because life isn't about picking and choosing the fun stuff and just doing it. How many of us just have fun all day long? You know? So you need to have the character and the discipline to apply yourself and to have a goal and finish it. And that's kind of what we do. We set our kids down at the end of 8th grade and we say, you know, what are some of your interests? They don't usually know what they want to be, and if they do, it may very well change. So you don't need to put it down in cement, but kind of start planning towards those things. What are some electives you would like to do? What are some interests that you have? My 9th grade girl is doing a lot of jewelry making right now. So that is one of her electives. She does a lot of baking and cooking, so she has a home ec elective. Finding the skills that they want to develop and prepare for the future. Let's see, if you do have plans for college, it's a whole nother world. You want to map out your 4-year plan, thinking a little bit more academically. You want to be thinking, this child is going into probably a fairly rigorous academic level. A college is a step up from high school, no matter how well prepared you've made them. It is a whole different ball game, really. My daughter who is in college right now is just like, they're required so many different things than you ever said in English. And I'm like, every English teacher is different, but it's more rigorous. And she says I'm using too many indefinite pronouns. Mom, like, who cares? I'm like, well, there's one of those things where we have character and we're going to do what we're told because we need to do what we're told, and we're going to have that character and discipline to achieve the goal, right? And so begin thinking more rigorously. You want to pursue electives that will be well-rounded, but also preparing them for their specific major that they may be thinking of. Homeschool Legal Defense Association is an excellent resource for any homeschooling in elementary or high school. But if you are homeschooling high school, if you will pay for the membership, which is a great organization to support anyway, they have 4-year plans laid out, recommendations. They have them for general, if you just want a general basic, like my son Garrett, who's probably not going to go to college, this is what he should have. And then they have an average to strong college prep. So if we're not going to be super like a law major or something like that, then this would work. Or then a rigorous college prep. If you have a kid wanting to go to Harvard or somewhere like that, one of the elite schools, then they have plans laid out. You do have to pay for the membership to be able to see those plans, but it's worth it. And so if you want to go there, you'll find a lot of information there. After you create your plan, you want to begin keeping a transcript. Transcript is just a summary of your teen's academic record. It actually is pretty simple. Colleges don't want a lot of stuff. If they do, then they will have that on the college application. The transcript itself is very basic. All most colleges want to see is listing your course by grade level, and then the title of each course, the final grade, and the credit that they earned, the amount of credits that you gave them for that class. You want to list your academic subjects first and then your electives last. You will have to learn how to do a GPA. I'm not going to go over that today because you can Google it. They even have places where you can go in and put the transcript in, and then it calculates it for you, which I found, and that was great. There are all kinds of transcript templates that you can find Googling online. Their HSLDA, Homeschool Law Association, or Homeschool Defense Fund has transcripts there. If you're a member of their organization, then you can get them there as well. They also have a GPA calculator. So you'll include the GPA, and then at the bottom you want to include a certification. I'm telling the truth, this is true. Yes, my kid did all this. and then a signature from you, not the professor, what do they call it? The academic advisor, or no, anyway. Whoever you want to call yourself. What do we call ourselves? I can't even remember what it's. Administrator? Yes, administrator. I knew it started with an A. Administrator. And then many times colleges require that it be notarized, especially if it's from a homeschool. So be prepared that you might have to take it and have it notarized. And also some transcripts some colleges send back transcripts if it's not sealed and taped, the envelope that you send it in. They just want to know it's not been tampered with. So a good thing to do is just to tape it and then put your initials over the seal of the envelope. I didn't know that was a thing until I started doing transcripts and applying for colleges with my daughter. Something else that you want to do is think about taking the SAT, ACT, or CLT. I know those things are quickly becoming not as needed, which I like. To be honest, my daughter is an all-A student, and she was on the president's list at college, but she did not score a grade. I mean, she was average, but it wasn't an exceptional score on the ACT because of the timing. It's a timed test, and she has a really hard time testing under pressure, so she's not a good tester. So I didn't feel that the ACT was a very accurate representation of her. However, it's still something, I think even just for the experience of it, especially as a homeschooler, not having done those kind of tests very often, and maybe some of you do tests, we didn't, but it's a good experience, and I have my kids go in their junior year and their senior year, and that way they have two opportunities. We go in cold turkey junior year. I know some people study for hours and plan and prep, but we just go in cold turkey. We know it may be great, it may not be great, just get an idea and a feel for it. And then they also have practice tests that you can take for all of those online. And so maybe senior year, do a little more practicing. There's books that you can get from the library that help with test prep. Something else that you might want to know about is what they call the PSAT. It's a scholarship test. It is only offered to 11th grade in October. And it is done through your public school district. And we didn't do that with Evie, so I don't have any experience there. I have heard that depending on the district you're in, they kind of like to make it difficult for homeschoolers to test. And so you have to be an advocate for your child and know what it's about and come in knowing what the PSAT is, knowing what rights you have, and be your child's advocate if that's important to you. So if you do want to do the PSAT, you want to make sure you are read up on it and are aware of that as you go into the public school district to get them a place to take that test, because they have to go to their school district to take that test. ACT, SAT, those are offered at CSI. They're offered in high schools too, but we've always just gone to CSI so we don't have to deal with the public school district. So that is how we do the ACT, SAT. You can also do things like dual enrollment, getting college and high school credits at the same time. By 10th grade, make a list of their top college choices and call the colleges or get online and ask them what is required. Every college requires different credits, different majors require different prerequisites. And the more, the less diverse major that you choose, the more particular they're going to be about what their requirements are. So especially if you're going into a little niche, you want to make sure you have it all there. And you want to know that by the end of 10th grade so that you have time to catch things up if you've missed something and you're not stressing out that senior year. If you map out your 4-year plan, you should be good. You only have to do 3 maths, 3 sciences. Pick the years and pick the subjects that you're going to do and just say, this is the plan. You don't have to decide curriculum right then, but just know, I need to make sure I teach this subject this year, this subject this year, this subject this year, and know that I need this many electives, this many electives, this many electives each semester to reach our cumulative goal of 48 electives or whatever number you've chosen. And by laying out that 4-year plan, it saves you the, oh my goodness, you're supposed to graduate next month and we forgot to do this. You don't want to have that. And so just map out that 4-year plan. Also, one more thing with homeschooling high school, Remember, you do not have to bring the school to the house, even for high school. You do not have to do public school at home for high school. My son is 16 and he just got a job. He works every morning, Tuesday through Saturday from 8 to 12. He gets to do that, and then he comes home and does his school in the afternoon. His job is something that is benefiting him and his skills so that he will be able to go on with it's something that he wants to do and learn more about, so that it's also preparing him for his future. You do not have to do public school at home. Continue with that flexibility. Continue thinking outside the box. Find skills that they can do. Find things that they enjoy doing and feed off of that. Don't stick your kids in a box. After all this freedom of elementary, don't stick your kids in a box and say, we have to do this. Or you will have teens who are bitter about their homeschool experience and who are going to jump on the bandwagon of, I want to go to real school. You need to be able to think outside the box and to carry through with that freedom so that they don't resent having done their homeschooling or their high school at home. And we get into all those teenage emotions and a lot of unreasonable things, and they're just not thinking straight yet. And so we need to do our best to make their high school experience wonderful so that they don't resent it. So don't try to bring the public school into high school just because we have to get all these credits in. Be willing to think outside of the box. Find some other homeschool moms who are homeschooling high school and pick their brain. Ask questions and be willing to learn from them. Your best helper is going to be other homeschool moms. So find other homeschool moms who are in this same walk with you, or even maybe a little bit ahead of you. And don't be afraid to ask questions and to think outside the box so that it makes it worthwhile for your kids and that you can have an enjoyable high school experience. Last year I had 4 high schoolers that I was teaching, and it was wonderful. I miss it. I now only have 3, and my daughter's in Florida and I hate it. But she's doing well. I love that part, and I'm excited for her future. But you only get that time for a short period. Make it the best time ever, right? And I'm crying again, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's what we had for homeschooling high school. I feel like I just threw it all at you. But so much, don't be overwhelmed. Look up that. Also, there's a Facebook page. It's not that hard to homeschool high school. If you find that, it's a really good place, community, kind of like our page, our Twin Falls Homeschool page, where you can just jump on and ask questions, and they're really good about answering, and you get a whole lot of perspective. It's a nationwide group, so maybe you're rigorous academics, they have that, and then they have those who are unschooling in high school. So the whole gamut, and that's a good resource to go to if you have questions too. All right, why don't we take a quick break